You know, the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, often called the Six-Day War, was a conflict that just completely redrew the map of the Middle East. But tucked away inside this massive geopolitical event is this incredible story you've probably never heard, one of amazing valor against, well, truly impossible odds.
So at the very heart of this story is a pretty staggering achievement. Right in the middle of the war, a single fighter pilot shot down 3 enemy jets in just 72 hours.
And here's the twist, the part that makes this story so fascinating. This pilot, he wasn't from Egypt or Syria or Jordan, the main countries fighting. He was actually from Pakistan, a nation that had no official role in the conflict at all.
So let's talk about this guy. The pilot's name was Saiful Azam, a flight lieutenant in the Pakistan Air Force. And he wasn't even supposed to be in combat. He was in Jordan on an advisory and training mission when, bam, war just unexpectedly broke out all around him.
And listen, Azam wasn't just any pilot. We're talking about an elite aviator with a career that is truly one of a kind. He'd flown for 4 different nations and had combat victories against 2 of the world's most formidable air forces, India and Israel. By any measure, this guy was one of the best there was.
That skill was put to the ultimate test in this unbelievable 72-hour stretch. On June 5th, flying for Jordan, he takes down an Israeli fighter bomber. The very next day, Israeli airstrikes ground Jordan's entire fighter squadron. So what happens? Azam is immediately transferred to an Iraqi airbase. And then, on June 7th, now flying for Iraq, he shoots down 2 more Israeli jets. Just think about that for a second. 3 aerial victories for 2 different countries in just 3 days. It's incredible.
But here's where the story gets complicated. Azam's amazing success up in the sky creates this paradox, because it stands in such stark contrast to the brutal reality of what was happening on the ground.
You see, despite the incredible skill and bravery of pilots like Azam, the war itself was an overwhelming, absolutely catastrophic loss for the Arab coalition of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan.
And that brings us to the big question we're tackling here. If you have pilots this talented, achieving these kinds of victories, why did it ultimately make no difference to the final result of the war?
To answer that, we really have to put on a military historian's hat. The answer isn't really about individual skill. It's about a fundamental mismatch in technology, in training, and in military strategy.
I mean, the divide was just stark. On one side, you had Israel using modern Western doctrine, flying advanced aircraft with a really organized air defense and tight coordination between their air and ground forces. And on the other side, the Arab coalition was relying on pretty rigid, outdated Soviet tactics and equipment, with really poor coordination between their different military branches. It wasn't just a clash of armies. It was a clash of 2 totally different military philosophies.
And that brings us to the tough reality of the situation. Individual bravery, as inspiring as it is, can be made almost irrelevant by the bigger strategic picture. Let's break down how that happened here.
This quote from military historian Kaiser Tufail really nails it. He says Azam's actions, while heroic, were mere symbolic. They were inspiring, sure, but they just couldn't change the strategic reality of the war.
And here's the devastating reason why. The Arab air forces were basically defeated before most of their pilots even got off the ground. Israel's preemptive strike on day 1 just wiped out the majority of their planes while they were still on the tarmac. This meant no air cover, no way to support the ground troops, and absolutely no way to build on any individual victories in the air. The air war was essentially lost before pilots like Azam even had a chance to make a real strategic difference.
To put it in perspective, the historian Tufail estimates that for the air war to have actually mattered, to have changed the outcome, pilots would have needed to shoot down at least 30 Israeli aircraft. Given that most of the Arab planes were destroyed on the ground from the get-go, that was a completely impossible task.
So the outcome of this huge strategic imbalance wasn't just a temporary setback. Nope. The consequences of those 6 days back in 1967 have cast a very, very long shadow that still felt profoundly today. And it's no exaggeration to say this was one of the most pivotal events in modern history. In less than a week, the entire geopolitical landscape of the region was just transformed.
You can see the stark reality of that outcome right here. Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. These were massive, landscape-altering shifts of control.
And ultimately, the war established Israeli military superiority in the region. That victory became a major bargaining chip for Israel.
cementing a whole new balance of power that has really defined the region's politics ever since.
So the story of Saif al-Azam is this powerful reminder of human courage, no doubt about it. But it also forces us to grapple with a really difficult question about modern war. In an age where strategy, technology, and overwhelming force are the deciding factors, what's the true value of a single hero?